Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides. That's my actual job and last name, which is part of the reason why the mathematical model that I've built to predict various sports outcomes is affectionately known as Sideline. Know more about the model during the course of this episode, set to cover the 12 best college basketball games. Got a dozen of them for you here on a great Saturday slate, February 25th, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pitchwiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations, community rules. See the Google Sheet linked in the show description for Sideline's projection on every single game. Remember, this show covers picks on the best games for the best picks on all games. Sign up on Patreon or Black Book Sports or different packages of price ranges based off what you're looking for. Don't know yet, but there will be a bunch of A-grade plays, and I'll pick out maybe 5 or so of them as the top 5 plays of the day for Saturday. So hit us up on Patreon if that's what you're after. Remember, sports are unpredictable. So what we do here is project a typical game. It's that concept of thinking about a 7-game series, or even to be more precise, a 100-game series. And what the average result is of those 100 games. Who knows what's going to happen in one game? Sometimes teams can't hit from 3. Sometimes they can't miss from 3. That stuff will balance out in the long run. So that's what we're all about here. And in the long run, these things will go our way more than not, but on any individual game, you just never know what will happen. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. As usual, recording this before anything has happened here on Friday, so unsure about the Friday games. Thursday games were a lot of fun. Cleaned up pretty well, went 6-0 with the push on UCLA. That did get down to 6.5, so some of y'all probably won that one as well. Just as a reminder, for a bunch of those games, the number didn't matter. But in that UCLA game, it did. So always shop around. Have multiple outlets. There's a couple links in the show description for signing up for some other ones. At least have 2, preferably 3 or more books. You can shop around, make sure you're getting an extra half point here, extra full point there. Even some better odds on different games, especially as we get into baseball season, can really help in the long run, shift some of those losses to pushes to wins. Make sure you're always shopping around, getting the best number out there. You never know where the number's going to go, so it's always hard to predict if you're going to get the best of the number over time, but you can always get the best of the number at the given time by shopping around. It's really important. It can really, it's one of the simplest things you could do to increase your ROI and your profitability. Otherwise, though, again, a great show today. But before we get to it, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. So if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that we provide here. I already mentioned the Patreon, but check it out if you haven't yet. Again, a lot of great benefits over there above and beyond what happens here on this show. We got the plays of the day. I already mentioned that. You can get the Discord chat access, which is the place to get questions answered about these games, other sports. We talked about cricket today. No one's betting on cricket. People betting on college baseball. A lot of NBA chatter over there. So just a lot of stuff, people sharing their picks, their insights, their thoughts, how they're doing. Gaining a lot of knowledge about injury reports. Just so much good stuff happening there over that Discord. We got a great little community over there. So check that out. And of course, you got ad-free shows if that's something you're interested in as well. If you don't have that YouTube premium or whatever the heck they're calling it these days, www.patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor is where you go for more details. But even if you're not there, still thrilled that you are here. Before we get to it, one last thing, just as some of you have noticed this, probably many of you have not. Today is the 24th. We are 8 months removed from the day that we found out that our son Connor was no longer with us. The 25th being tomorrow when these games are happening, 8 months of the day of when he was stillborn. And so I always wear this jersey. He was born on the day, y'all know I'm an Astros fan. He was born on the day that Christian Javier started the game and threw his no-hitter in Yankee Stadium, and our son's initials are the same as Javier, so I have a special place in my heart for that, and I always wear this jersey on this day every month, kind of in remembrance of him. So it's just one little thing I can do to honor him, and I say that just so every month when you see it what it means, and just as a reminder, hug your loved ones. And it's been a rough time for me here lately on a personal note. I have a lot of fun doing this, of course, and it's one of the few things that is a ray of light in these times, because times are still hard for me personally. But you just never know when you're going to get some bad news. So hug your loved ones for me today, and just do everything you can to bring joy in the world. Hopefully you're enjoying watching college basketball here, betting on it. It's a lot of fun. That's all I got. That's all I got. As always, with all these picks, take what you like and leave the rest. We're starting off a couple noon games here. Creighton and Villanova going to start off hot. Got an A grade play on Villanova here at plus 4.5. Sideline says this should be Creighton minus 2.5. This Creighton team's really good. I do like what I've seen from them for the most part, but as of late, they've kind of cooled off. They haven't been quite as dominant. They've been more good than great. I've still got them ranked 12th overall. I've got Villanova ranked 50th. The bottom line is that, Creighton, while, picked up and got really hot when they kind of fully got healthy, as of late, again, solid. They're a really good team, but Villanova's played a lot better as of late too. I was very skeptical. But of course, as of late, now they're finally getting healthy. Tough place to play here. They're really looking to put things together. They're, unlikely to make the tournament as an at-large unless they start really getting on a roll here. But it's not off the table, in my opinion. Again, I've got them ranked 50th. So, if they win this game here, make a little run in the Big East tournament, I don't think it's completely inconceivable that Villanova makes the tournament. So this would be a game that they really need to win, though, to boost their resume. So, they're going to come out playing hard. It should be a nice crowd. I know it's a noon start, but so it should be a pretty great atmosphere there. I think Villanova hangs around. I don't know if they win. According to the model, they do pull it out 43% of the time, but I think there's just a lot of chance here that they hang around. And at that point, we just hope something stupid doesn't happen at the end with late fouls, and Villanova, again, either wins or there's 4 different ways that they can lose this game and we still win the best. I think grabbing the 4.5 for the home dog here makes a lot of sense. Total is 135. The model would indicate to go over. Predicts 139. The counter to that is that both these teams have been under teams here really as of late, as of the last month, maybe a little bit longer for both of them. Creighton, of course, a really good defense. I've got their defense at 15th in the country. They've got a good offense, but their defense is still better than their offense. Villanova's defense, not quite as great, but they play really slow. They're in the bottom 20 in pace. So between Creighton's defense and Villanova's pace, over's a little bit of a scary play. Again, the model thinks 135 is too low, but it's not really an over that I'm jumping. I think there's a lot better overs on the board than this one. So I'm just going to stick to Villanova plus 4.5 to get an A grade play kicking us off. Also at noon Eastern, TCU at Texas Tech. I'm super excited for this game. TCU, I've mentioned, fully healthy, I think might be the best team in the Big 12, one of the best teams in the country, I think. And, they couldn't quite pull it out against Kansas, but that was a fantastic game, everything that we hoped for in a really good contest. And now going on the road to a Texas Tech team that I've been talking about now for weeks, looking really good, coming on strong and having life. And I kept saying, hey, if they're going to get it going, make that tournament, it's got to start now. And sure enough, since then, they just keep ripping off wins. Now at home, another big win opportunity here to boost their resume. If they win this one, you got to start thinking that they're in. Who knows how the rest of the season plays. Like if they lose their last 3, right? It's different. But at the moment, this win would take them from on the outside looking in to being in. Again, would be a huge boost for them to beat a team like TCU, just like it would be for Villanova to beat Creighton, right? 2 teams that are really looking to try to get in the tournament here. So everything to play for Tech. TCU, I'm not sure how much they have to play for specifically from a motivation standpoint, other than every time you go out in the Big 12, it's a tight contest, it seems like, and you got to get up every single day. A little bit of a rivalry here. TCU views Baylor and Texas Tech, that they're 3 in-state comrades in the conference, at least for this year. They view them with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder every time they play. So a little bit of a rivalry here, especially for TCU. I'm going to grab the 1.5 with Horned Frogs. Model says that they win this 51% of the time. So grabbing the 1.5 or slight plus odds on the money line is the model's lean here. I think that Tech, while they've looked really good as of late, and I've been on them for all of that, I think that the difference that Lampkin and really extremely so Miles make to this TCU team isn't really being reflected in this number appropriately, in that while I think that Tech is a much better version today And of course, they're fully healthy now too, and they had a key guy that was out as well. But they are a much better team today. Of course, I just think that TCU's contrast without those two guys was even bigger. So I just think TCU's the much better team here, and so I think they can go on the road and win. It wouldn't surprise me if they lost, just because again, Tech's playing so well, and it's a tough place to play. But I still am going to stick to my guns. My guns have been this TCU team fully healthy is the best team in the conference, and the best team in the conference ought to be able to get a road win at Tech. Even though Tech's been playing better, they're still in the bottom half of the conference. I still don't think they're better than Texas. I still don't think they're better than Baylor. They're not better than TCU. They're not better than Kansas. They're still in the bottom half. And so if TCU really is the best team in the conference, fully healthy, again, and nothing, take away nothing with Kansas. Those two teams split, both got road wins, really good. But if we're talking about those, the class of the conference here, I think they ought to be able to go get a road win against the bottom team, even though, again, I love the way Tech's been playing. I just think TCU is too much for them. So even though it's on the road, I'm going to back the road team here, take the Horned Frogs to win. Total's 144. Model says 144.5. Both teams have been slightly over teams. That noon start, though, kind of worries me a little bit. We do see, again, on average, a little bit fewer points on these noon games. It doesn't happen for every single game, just on average. That's the way it goes. So it's not really like I'm not jumping to play these overs unless I really see something I like. I think this number in the mid 140s is pretty solid. TCU, of course, defensively, I've got them at 20th, and Tech I've got as a better defense than an offense. So passing the total, just going to take the Horned Frogs here on the road. 2 p.m. Eastern, Texas at Baylor. Notice on the screen there's no pick. I have no idea what to do with this game. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give you some angles, and whatever kind of resonates with you might be the way that I would tell you to play this, but I can't really strongly back any side. So I'm going to break down all 4 angles here between both sides and the total. Right now it's Baylor -3. I've got Texas ranked 9th, Baylor ranked 14th. So I've got Texas as the better team. It would be a B grade pick right now, getting 3 with Texas. That would be where the model would send you. I'm a little bit nervous about Texas on the road. I still don't 100% believe in them playing against such a good team. They got Kansas State on the road. That was kind of in Kansas State's like a little weird flutter down period where they were really struggling. This would be a huge win for Texas on the road, or huge even if they can just hang around, right? Lose by 1 or 2. I still think that'd be really impressive for this team who just hasn't been great on the road. I haven't been as impressed with them on the road as much as I've been at home. If you trust the model, again, B grade pick getting Texas +3 is not bad. Model says it should be Baylor -1.8. I don't really want to lay the 3 with Baylor because I just think it's too high in that I still think Texas might be the better team here. The question you have on that assessment is exactly what Chachua means to Baylor's defense. It hadn't helped them these last 2 games. Baylor really struggled against Kansas State, played that great first half against Kansas. The second half really went Kansas's way more than, more than words can indicate. They played well at Kansas State for times, but it was almost the same sort of thing. Just by the end of the game, just could not, just had it handed to them in the second half. Good for Kansas State for getting back on track. Questionable for Baylor now. What does this really mean for them? I'm a little bit nervous about fading Baylor. I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, it's 2 road games. Again, I always talk about it's really tough to play in both those places. I think we all know that. So, and I saw enough good things from Baylor that now coming back home, I can easily see a world where Baylor wins this game, pulls away in the second half. Especially, again, the metrics having a hard time exactly with how much of an impact Chachua has with the Baylor defense now being back the last, 4 or 5 games or so now. That said, there are enough questions about what Baylor's on the road that, I don't really want to back them. So I think that's kind of my breakdown of this game on the side. If you trust the model, if you say Texas is the better team, getting 3 points with them makes a lot of sense. I'm a little bit afraid, I think, of that personally with regards to a team is never as bad as they just looked. And I don't want to be caught on the zigzag thing where it's like, oh, Baylor's great, let's back them, and they lose. Oh, Baylor's terrible, let's fade them, and then they win. Because that kind of thing happens because people tend to overreact to the last game or last 2 games that they saw. So pass me on the side. Total, kind of the same story. Model says 150 or 156. The actual total is 153. So the model will go over. That's a really large number. Texas has been flying over total. So if you see what Texas has been doing, defense playing a little lackadaisically. Again, just not as strong of a defense, not anywhere near as strong of a defense as we saw from them last year, letting up a lot of points, but just scoring at will. If you believe that Texas is going to continue to play with that pace, and Baylor, I've got as the number 2 offense in the country from an efficiency standpoint, Over makes a lot of sense. My fear here is it's a really high number, and I'm not really sure what Baylor's going to do with regards to tempo. They're in the bottom half of the country on tempo, and while they do have the second most efficient offense, according to my metrics, the game plan here, I can see it being really slow Texas down, knowing that Texas wants to get up and run. They're around 100th in pace. They kind of try to slow that down, and again, the big man guarding the rim down low. I can just see a game where Baylor tries to maybe not suck the air out of the ball. They're not going to just hold it for bad looks, Virginia style, right? Or North Texas Charlotte, right? If you saw any of that game, they're not going to be quite like that, but I can just see them kind of tapping the brakes a little bit. And it doesn't take too much brake tapping to prevent you from getting over 153. So again, it's just a straight pass from me on the total. Those are kind of the two angles though. If you like the way Texas has been playing over, you like their tempo, Baylor at home, really efficient offense. If you think there's going to be a lot of points, I think over, that's fine. Under, the case of the under is that's a lot of points. And I think Baylor's game plan might be to, again, tap the brakes, and they don't need too much brake tapping in order to stay under such a high number. So from a game plan perspective, I kind of would actually lean towards the under. So a lot of different ways you can play that game. Hopefully you heard something you like. And if you're kind of like me and you think all that kind of makes sense and you can't come up with something, we can pass, we can watch it for entertainment, and we can invest our money on the next one, which is sticking in the Big 12. Kansas State, again, a team like I said, kudos to them for kind of turning things back around. I'm going to grab the 1.5 with them at Oklahoma State. I'm going to stick with my guns here, just like I did with TCU, which is Oklahoma State without Anderson, who's one of their top two players. Just not the same team. I don't think they're as good without him. We've seen them play a couple of high variance games, a couple of good games, a couple of really bad games. It is at home, but we've seen them kind of be flat at home again without Anderson. He's really the driving force behind the team. I think he means a lot to them. I liked what I saw against Kansas State, getting the ship righted. I think they can go on the road. I think they win this game. Model's not going to help us out. Model says coin toss game 49-51 on the percentages of winning. So basically flipping a coin here. But I really think that Anderson's presence for Oklahoma State prevents them from winning this game. Oklahoma State slipping. They were, solidly in the tournament, but if they don't watch out, they're going to flip-flop with Tech, and Tech's going to take their spot here. I really like what I saw from Kansas State recently. I'm going to back them. I think they get the job done. Totals 138. Models is 140. And since Anderson's gone out, Oklahoma State's offense has played a lot better, but their defense has gotten terrible. So if you're buying that means go over 138. The fear with that over, and the reason I'm not playing the total, is that Kansas State, what they did against Baylor, there was a decent amount of points in the first half. What they did against the second half that was so good is really just slow the game down, take the air out of the ball. That's what they've been doing when they're more successful. That's kind of what they do. They really just want to limit the number of possessions. It's kind of their style of play. And so I know that they have played in a bunch of overs and had high possession games. That was kind of, against Texas, who wants to run. That was against Kansas, who wants to run. Against Oklahoma State, I don't know what Oklahoma State wants to do, especially now that, that they're playing a different style without Anderson. So there's just a lot of conflicting issues right here with the tempo of this game. I just know Kansas State doesn't really want to run. And even against the teams that want to run as of late, they've been doing it. They've been going a little bit slower than they were at the start of conference play. So as they've really kind of changed their style up, it makes us over a little bit uncomfortable. But again, Oklahoma State's been playing over as of late. So you kind of got two ways to look at that one. It's just a pass for me. I kind of laid it out for you why. If you like either side, go for it. But I'm sticking to the Wildcats getting the job done on the road. 2 p.m. Eastern, Arkansas at Alabama. I'm going to grab the 9.5 with Arkansas here on the road. I was concerned about Alabama against South Carolina. That was a really tough spot for them. How up are you going to get against South Carolina? How up are you going to get on a road game that, it isn't, or it's not Tennessee, right? It's not Auburn. It's not, it wasn't a big road game for them. And so that was kind of a trap game, not trap like, anybody's trying to do anything funky. They just were like lured to sleep. And then you have the whole off the court incident and that distraction, just kind of potentially fed into that. I was very concerned about how that would play out. They got it done. Didn't sniff a cover at all. Back home, are they going to have those distractions? I'm not really sure. I just think that we got like a 1 out of 4 chance that Alabama wins this game by 35 because every once in a while Alabama just destroys a team. And in that 1 out of 4 times, we're going to lose this play, and it is what it is. None of these picks are 100%. If you're looking for 100%, if you're looking for 80% on these picks, it ain't here. It ain't anywhere. Good luck. You're never going to find it, right? That's obviously on the table that Alabama can win this game by 40. But there's a lot of ways that Arkansas hangs around in this game and loses by single digits. And that's all we got to do here is lose by single digits. I like what I've seen from Arkansas as of late. They're now fully healthy. I've got them up to 15th. It's been a great coaching job there. I love what I've seen from them. Alabama is absolutely a top 5 team in the country, but I just think 9.5 is too many. The model says 8.5, so it's a C grade pick for the model on Arkansas plus 9.5. A C plus pick, almost to a B pick. I think it's a pretty wise investment, though. Like I said, there's a chance that we just get run from this one and this bet's over by halftime. There's a lot of ways Arkansas hangs around. They've done a really good job this year of zigging and zagging against their opponent. When their opponent wants to slow it down, they're speeding them up. When their opponent wants to speed it up, they're slowing them down. And so they've done just a great job of that. Obviously, Alabama, I've got them as the 3rd fastest team in the country. So they're going to try to slow Alabama down. That makes it even more likely we cover this number. Arkansas has just been a great team to watch, I feel like, in that they've just been able to zig and zag and do whatever their opponent doesn't want to do. And if they can throw that chaos into Alabama, I think there's a great chance they can hang around and lose this game by single digits. So I'm backing Arkansas here. Total is 150. The model would tell you to go over. It says 153.5. Alabama has been going over as of late. 2 reasons I'm not playing. I'm not saying the over is a bad pick at a number like 150. It's just 2 reasons I'm not playing it. Number one, Alabama still has yet to allow, I believe, 70 points in a conference game in regulation all season. And so if they allow under 70, that's going to make it really hard for this total to go over unless Alabama just wins by a ton. Model does project Arkansas to get 72.5. So the model is projecting that streak to end here. But if Arkansas does what I think that the model, is looking at what Arkansas has done from a tempo standpoint. And as I mentioned, they're really zigging and zagging. They're going fast. They're going slow. It kind of just depends. And they've played all over the place. If they really suck the air out of this ball, and that's not represented very well in the model projection, that 153.5 that it's projecting drops easily about 5 points. So I'm not playing the over just because Alabama has a great defense, and I'm not 100% sure what Arkansas is going to do from a tempo standpoint. So I'm passing the total, just going to grab the points with the road dog. Sticking to the SEC here, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, 2 teams that have been great to back as of late. Mississippi State getting it done for us with that overtime cover against Missouri, barely by the hair of their chin in a game that they probably should have won a couple different times but couldn't get it done. A&M continues to roll. As I mentioned, they've just been one of the hottest teams as of late, and a team that I think has really been disrespected. I really like what I've seen from both of these teams. Unfortunately, we can't back them both. Interesting note here, I've got Texas A&M ranked 18th now. So people talking about them still in the bubble is hilarious to me because I would have them at a 5 seed at this point, just given the fact of what they've accomplished and where they are from a talent standpoint. I really like what I've seen from this A&M team. And I've got them as the better team in this game, but on the road is going to be a tough win. I'm going to grab the point Mississippi State. I think the home team pulls it out here. Model says Mississippi State wins at 52% of the time. So again, even money or so, or +1 is a pretty smart investment. I think the bottom line here is both of these teams have been massively overperforming with respect to any model, every model, the sports books, their models, everything. Both these teams in the last month. So whoever you're picking against, you are picking against a team that's looked really good. So let's just cut that off at the head right now. No matter which team I pick, you could put in the comments, you could say, how are you fading this team? They have both looked great. So I don't really want to fade either one of them. It's just that I think that the perception here is that people are starting to realize that A&M is really good. And I don't think people are realizing that about Mississippi State. I still think that we are now with Mississippi State today where we were with A&M about 2 weeks ago, where people still weren't giving A&M the credit they deserve. And I think that's where we are with Mississippi State now. I think they're still kind of remembering a couple of those bad games. They had that really middle of the season, just terrible stretch. They have the 6th best defense in the country, according to my model. Obviously, their offense isn't great, but it still is at least in the top half. A&M's a more balanced team. Again, I do think A&M's the better team, but winning on the road isn't easy in college basketball. So I'm going to take the home team here. I think that Mississippi State's defense just not getting the respect that they deserve. It should be a rock fight. Total, because of that, is at 125. It's not a total that I would touch. Model says 126.6, so the model would lean over simply because of how few points it is. But it's not a total that I want anything to do with. Both these teams have been pretty spot on. So with regards to their total performance in the last month. So if we're around that 126.5 number, we're just one make or miss from going over or under. So that makes it a real coin toss on the total. I mean, if this was 130, I'd love to go under, but 125 right now, it's just a pass to the total. It's going to be a really low scoring game. I don't want to go under such a low number, but I can't go over, knowing that this game could easily be first to 60 wins. Instead, I think the Bulldogs at home can pull it out. Like I said, I think my key here is that I think people aren't giving Mississippi State the respect they deserve. I think they're a solid team, and people realize A&M is. And so I think there's a little bit of now disrespect towards Mississippi State here, which is why I'm backing them. One more SEC game here, Auburn at Kentucky. I'm going to grab the 3 with the Tigers on the road here. I've got Auburn ranked 16th, Kentucky ranked 38th. So at this point, I think this is a coin toss game. Model does say it should be Kentucky -1. So +3 on Auburn is an A-grade play for us. Bottom line, again, coin toss. I don't know who wins this game. I do think Auburn's a better team. Kentucky is so high variance. You never know what you're going to get from them. Kentucky could win this game by 15, or they could lose by 10, and neither one of those results would be shocking whatsoever. I do think, obviously, if it's a blowout, it probably is more likely to go Kentucky's way. But the fact that we're getting 3 points with Auburn offers us some value, because Auburn could easily, cover this number, win by a decent amount or whatever with late game fouls, and end up pulling away and winning by more than maybe what they should have. They could also easily lose on a last second shot or last second failed shot, lose by 1 or 2, and we've got the win here. So I think getting 3 points here with Auburn makes too much sense. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Kentucky. I know I'm going to get a good home crowd, but that's about the only thing I can guarantee. Auburn at least has been consistent. They haven't really had that many great wins that I've seen, but they haven't had that many questionable losses. For the most part, they're tougher games. They've kind of just hung around, and they've lost to better teams, and they've beaten weaker teams for the most part, not every single game. I kind of think the same thing here. I think on the road against a decent team in Kentucky, I think they hang around, kind of like they did against Vanderbilt last week in a game that I believe went to overtime. They ended up losing by like 2 or something. If they lose by 2 here, that's great. We don't have to, we've got the win here, getting 3 points. So I just think they hang around. Don't know if they pull it out, but I think there's enough value here on +3 on Auburn or the money line, just because if they hang around, plus odds on a coin tossy type game is always a smart investment. So I like Auburn here. Total's 141.5. Model says 142.2. Both teams have been going over as of late, though, so the model doesn't like going over, but if I had to play the total, I would be going over 141.5. 6 p.m. Eastern, Virginia at North Carolina. This is only a B grade pick according to the model, getting the 3 points with Virginia, but I love this. I just don't think that North Carolina is that good. I still think they're getting too much respect. I think Virginia wins this game. The model does say North Carolina wins it 54% of the time, so it should be UNC -1.8. But I personally, I disagree. I'm allowed to disagree with my model every once in a while. I don't often, but I think this should be Virginia -1 or 2. I think I know that both teams have been a little bit disappointing as of late, but I think you can kind of summarize all of Virginia's disappointment in that one really head-scratching loss that they just had, whereas North Carolina, I feel like, has spread out their disappointment just consistently for the last, 6 weeks now. They've had like one good game. I mean, North Carolina has been a team that, and kind of talk about Auburn, right? They haven't been able to beat the good teams. They've beaten the teams that they should in the situations they should. They just don't look great, in my opinion. I think Virginia's the better team. I like getting 3 points with here. I think they win this game. Model thinks they can pull it out. Again, B grade pick from the model, but A grade play in my heart. I love Virginia +3 here. Maybe sprinkle it on the money line. I just think they're a much better team. It's that simple. I've been fading North Carolina a lot lately, and for the most part, it's worked out. The only time I didn't, I believe, was that like home game against, Clemson maybe. I can't remember who it was. They had the home game where they just like couldn't miss from 3, but then otherwise, they've been a pretty solid fade for the most part of the last month. So I'm going to keep riding that train. Again, I'm going to overlook how bad Virginia looked in the last game and say that's an aberration. That won't happen again. I think they win this one. So I like the +3 on the Cavaliers. Total's 133.5. Model says 133.9. Both teams have been massive under teams as of late. So this might be an under spot if that's your type of thing. Go under in here. Know that Virginia is going to obviously try to suck the air out of the ball. And North Carolina, actually, their defense ranks slightly better than their offense. Might surprise you. So under might be the way to go there. It's not high enough for me to like it, but 133.5 might be a little too high. Might lean under in that one. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Indiana, Purdue. No pick on this one yet. Purdue is a 7.5 point favorite. The model says it should be Purdue minus 9.1 and is a B grade pick. I'm holding off. I'm going to wait for 7. If I can get a 7, I'm locking that in on Purdue. I will update the comments, I guess, whenever I lock that in. You'll see it if you're with us on Blackboard. You'll see it if you're on Patreon. I'll talk about it in the Discord. So if you're with us somewhere, you'll see this. If you can find a 7 is the pick I would lock in at Purdue. Otherwise, I'm passing on this one. I don't want to lay the hook. 7, y'all know, is my number on these big numbers. I just hate laying a number more than 7 unless I think a team really can run away. I think that's possible here, but I like the fact that 7 makes me feel like we've got a second chance to win this, and that if Purdue's up 4 late, free throws got a chance to get us at least a push or maybe a win. Whereas at 7.5, that hook could matter. This feels like a game where Purdue wins by between 5 and 10. And so I think that 7 offers us a lot of value. That's where it's an A grade pick for the model. That's where I'm jumping in. But until it gets to 7, if it's at 7.5 or higher, it's just a pass for me. I think Purdue's a better team at home. They're obviously out for revenge. Indiana, a good team, just not still completely healthy. So I don't think that they can win this one. But given that the spread at 7.5, it's just not quite good enough for me. So a pass at 7.5, but I would play it at 7. That's where it's an A grade pick, and that's where I'm on Purdue. Total's 140.5. Model says 142.7. Purdue's been going over. Indiana's been going under. 140 seems about right. Purdue, plays really slow. Indiana might try to speed it up a little bit, but they've been playing under so much as of late. It's not really a total I think has a lot of value either direction. 8 p.m. Eastern, Virginia Tech at Duke. Going to go over 140.5 in this one. Sideline says 145. So it should be 145, not 140.5. So we're getting about 4.5 points of extra value in this one. Duke, of course, more of a slow it down, better defense team. But Virginia Tech is all offense and no defense, and they have been flying over as of late. Their tempo has increased. Obviously, Duke's going to try to slow them down, but I'm not sure how much they can slow them down. This Virginia Tech team just seems to be scoring at will, and they seem to be giving up points at will. Like, Duke might try to slow them down, but at some point, what are they going to do? Pass up the wide open 3, pass up the backdoor layup? Like, to some extent, Virginia Tech's defense got holes in it, right? And Duke's going to have to take advantage of those holes to score in what should be a reasonably tight contest. I don't see it slowing down enough to stay under this number. I think mid 140s up towards 150 makes a lot more sense with the way Virginia Tech's been playing. I think that, again, while Duke will try to slow them down, I just don't think they're going to have enough success to keep this super low scoring. If Duke wanted to go actually running gun this game's going to get into the 160s. I don't think Duke wants to do that. I don't see why they would do that, except for the fact that, again, the worst on this court by far is Virginia Tech's defense. So if Duke decides to try to take advantage of that and say, we're going to exploit your bad defense, there should be a lot of points in this one. So I think if Duke slows Virginia Tech down, I think we're mid 140s, upper 140s. If Duke decides, hey, Virginia Tech's defense is terrible, I don't think they will, but if they do and decide, let's just go out there, roll the ball out there and have some fun, we're going to beat these guys down at home, this game gets up towards 160. So I think over 140.5 is a great investment here. Spread is 6.5 right now. Model says 5.9. So the model would lean towards taking the dog. Model's been a little bit overestimating Virginia Tech as of late. Duke's been playing a little bit better now that they are getting healthy, I guess, finally. I don't think it's really worth investing in at Virginia Tech plus 6.5. At plus 7, you're starting to think about it. If you get to plus 7.5, now that starts to get interesting. Model would wait till 8 for an A grade play. So we're not really close to applying the side on this one, I don't think. 8 p.m. Eastern, USC and Utah. And I mentioned a couple days ago, I said, I wasn't going to be jumping on USC. I wasn't going to be dying to play USC in this second game, talking about how that second game of the Pac-12 road trips here are tough, especially this Utah-Colorado one. And then USC decides to beat Colorado by about 1,000 points. Their starters get to rest their legs. I'm back on USC. It's an A grade play, getting 2 points. I've got USC winning this game 52% of the time. I'd be investing a little bit on the money line here. I don't know. Just go back to what I said 2 days ago, right? I'm not going to make you go back and rewatch that show, but I mean, the too long don't read version is I really like what I've seen from USC. They're solidly the third best team in that conference. They're looking to prove it. They looked really good here on Thursday night. I don't see why it changes much. Utah played a grueling game against UCLA that they never really were in. So it's not like they're going to be, their legs going to be much better shape. Like I said, USC got to relax the starters' minutes because they were cruising so much. I just love what this USC team is doing. I think they're on a roll. I think they keep it going here. I think they beat Utah. I'm just not sold on this Utah team right now. They're not fully healthy. I'm not expecting them to get fully healthy by the time this game comes around. And, that's where they can do some damage here in the second game of the back-to-backs in the Pac-12, or the 2 games in 3 days, is, playing with a little bit of tempo at altitude, that sort of thing. They're not healthy enough to do that. They've been playing slow as of late because they've been injured. I mean, Utah's just they're not doing what they could do in the altitude and really frustrate these teams here on these second nights of these teams. They've been playing slow. And nothing's going to change, right? They're not going to just magically get healthy and all of a sudden start, running up and down the court and really trying to, take USC's legs out from under them. So I just don't think they're built to exploit what could be a tough situation for USC. I think USC keeps rolling. I'm going to grab the 2 points, money line, whatever. I think USC wins this one. Maybe not quite as convincingly as against Colorado, but when you look at that UCLA game, UCLA controlled that game from start to finish for the most part and really dominated that one. And I think USC kind of does the same thing. I don't really see either one of those teams having a problem with this Utah team, who just continues to go the wrong direction. USC's been great. Utah hasn't been. Don't overthink this one. Let's take the road team and grab the 2 points with the Trojans. Total is 140.5. Model says 139.3. USC's been scoring so much. Their offense has been so good that they've been going over. So if I was going to do something, I would go over. But the model thinks it's a pretty good number. So it's a pass for me on the total. And to the late night game, a rematch of what was a classic earlier, at least the second half classic. The first half was a little bit boring. St. Mary's at Gonzaga. St. Mary's with the massive comeback at home in the first game, wins it in overtime. Gonzaga was the better team that night. That's the bottom line. And so I'm going to back them here. I really like what I've seen from Gonzaga as of late. They finally putting it all together here. Their offense has gone from good to great. Their offense already was really good, but they just didn't look inspired early on in the season. And I get that, like, they were playing tougher teams, but we have to remember that all of the data is valuable, right? That we can use how you play against better teams and how you play against worse teams, and we can kind of translate that. And the bottom line is that Gonzaga, as of late, has been doing to the mediocre and weaker teams of the West Coast Conference still looked more impressive than what they did against the better teams. And not just more impressive because I know they're playing weaker opponents, but I'm saying even if we translate on that scale, even if we translate down and say, based off what they did earlier in the season, we would not project them to be putting up 90 points a night in this conference. We'd project them to be putting up 80. And if they did this, we would, against these teams, we would project them to then do better than they did earlier. They're looking better now. Their offense has gone from good to great. I've got them ranked as the number 1 offense in the country right now. I like their scoring ability. St. Mary's 5th best defense, and that helped them at home. But it only helped them at home so much. Again, Gonzaga was the better team for 35 minutes of that game. In Spokane now, I think there's a good chance that Gonzaga pulls away from this one. They were up by more than this for most of the second half. I think the same thing happens here, except I don't think St. Mary's can get that comeback. I think the home court tilts their direction. Obviously, a contrast in styles here. St. Mary's, the 4th slowest team. Gonzaga, the 39th fastest team. St. Mary's offense, decent. Gonzaga's defense, questionable, but that Gonzaga offense is otherworldly, and at home is the difference maker. I think they win this one by 5-10. I love laying 4. It's only a C grade pick according to the model, but Gonzaga's really turned it around from a team that I had no desire to back early on in the season to one that's really started to make me believe that they might actually be undervalued for the first time all season after being overvalued for the first 20 some odd games of the season, it seems like. So I'm going to back the Zags here at home. Total's 143. Model says 143.6. Again, such a contrast of styles. I'm not really sure what to make of it. Gonzaga's been flying over totals as of late because of how good their offense has been. St. Mary's been pretty on the projections. So I wouldn't just blindly go under this, even though St. Mary's is involved, and I know that they're going to want to slow it down. I think 143 is a decent number. If I had to, I'd play the over. It's just the slightest of leans, though, just because St. Mary's offense has been pretty solid. I think they can score. So again, I would lean over just because Gonzaga's offense can get to it the next level here this last few weeks. But not my favorite play. Instead, my favorite play just Gonzaga -4. I love laying such a short number with the home team here. They're on a mission, I think, to really avenge all of their losses from earlier in the season. I think they do that here in the late night slot against St. Mary's. That's all I've got for you here. Thanks for tuning in this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy all the sports betting content we provide on this channel. It's dropped right into your feed. No show for Sunday games, so back for Monday's action. But until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.